Hey, good evening, and welcome to this week's edition of the Ride Along Radio Show, the show where we give you the experience of riding in a virtual police car with two very real, very opinionated police officers in the front seat, and we'll give you a tour of the city and go through all the stories of the day and give you our unadulterated, unfiltered, and unfettered opinions.
You might not like it.
You might not.
What are we going to tell you?
Well, here's the thing. Even those of you who say you don't like it, you secretly do, and that's why you watch it. So secretly, a little bit, you do. So we're going to give you what you're tuning in for. We're going to give you the unadulterated truth, the butt-naked truth, as I sometimes like to say.
Oh, I don't like to say that.
So. The butt-naked truth? You like to tell it, though. Maybe you don't use the term, but you like to tell the butt-naked truth.
Look, I tell it like it is.
Well, El Voz de Oro.
That's me.
There he is with the golden voice. So I'm George Holt.
I'm Gil Contreras.
And this is
Ride Along Radio.
There you go. So we got a little singing and everything, right? So there you go. So, one of the things we do is we follow up from the last week. And last week, we didn't really have a topic. We just kind of freestyled, right? We just did.
We had some kind of a topic. I mean, the topic was police stories.
Well, yeah. But I'm saying it wasn't like we had a guest and we had this framework. It was like, we're going to tell police stories. And that's what we did. So we should probably do that on occasion. That was a lot of fun.
It was a lot of fun, and
people seem to enjoy that.
They did, and I got feedback from my boo, who's a total civilian, right? She's totally out of our field, and has been for most of her life until she met me. And, she now laughs at things that are so inappropriate, and she doesn't know why she does. she actually told me one time, she goes, some of the stuff you say, so she's shaking her head at me. She goes, I have no idea why I'm laughing because it's so bad.
Yeah, but that's why. That's why. It's so bad that it's shocking.
But she gets it now. She at least she gets me.
Sure.
And then, she gets, well, he's not really a bad guy because if he was, I wouldn't be with him. But But he's got this side that, she never really got to see. She just hears about it.
Well, it's what they call that gallows humor, I guess, that you see police officers with, and sometimes fire, etc.
Yeah,
dark
humor. Yeah. But you see it in law enforcement, emergency med,
military personnel. Yeah, for sure. And that's a coping mechanism. But I'm gonna tell you, sometimes shit's just funny.
Sometimes it is, and not to citizens, but to us in the field, some stuff is just funny, and
it is. I mean, I have a story. I'm not gonna tell it now. But I have a story that my police friends just think is funnier than shit. But when you tell other civilians, they're looking at you like, what's wrong with you guys?
Yeah.
You guys really think that shit's funny?
Oh, what's wrong with you? That's I get
right,
that a lot.
Right. That's not funny.
What's wrong with you?
Yeah.
And especially in today, in the new, I call it the new America. In the new America, because of 8 years of Obama political correctness, we've moved this country to a weird place where college kids need safe spaces, and if you're direct with them, they feel, quote, microaggressed, close quote.
Yeah, that's called a microaggression. That's right.
It's ridiculous. It's just ridiculous.
But I'm glad you said that.
We're raising a whole generation of millennials who have a victim mentality and a sense of entitlement. So that's why Bernie Sanders was so he's been so popular in the primary. Because he's promising a whole bunch of free shit.
Well, this is the participation trophy generation, too. But I'm glad you said that. I'm glad you brought up Barack Obama. Usually I cringe when you do that, but this is really a nice segue because we got some social media feedback, and I've been meaning to catch up on some of these, but this is
Barack Obama commented on the video?
No, he did not.
Oh, okay.
Brian BP the Great Parin says, George Holt, I was enjoying last week's episode of your show until your boy Gil.
Wow, number one, why I got to be your boy?
Right. I'm reading exactly what he said. Until your boy Gil said it's President Obama's fault that people don't trust the police.
That's right.
He asked, when have black people trusted the police? Shit, I've never trusted the police because when I was a teenager, it was commonplace for police to fight us instead of arresting us. So that's from Brian, and that was his feedback on the show and
here's
Obama's fault.
Here's the little note for Brian. And I hope you're watching, Brian, and to get my response from your boy or from George's boy, I guess. But normal people that is people who are not involved in criminal activity, they do support the police and they do like the police. The only problems I ever had out there were with criminals and their families. They hate the police.
Well, or how about this, though? People who are mistaken for criminals on a regular basis when they haven't done
that is so far and few. It's so few.
Well,
that's just,
it happens though, and when it happens to you a couple of times, you start to wonder what the fuck over.
Yeah, but if you look like, drive a car that's not registered, if you're in areas where you're not supposed to be, if you're out at times when most people are at home, if you're hanging with criminals or in a criminal neighborhood or locations known for street sales of narcotics or known for gang activity, if you're doing all that, but I'm just a private citizen. Right. If you're in any of those places, if you're normal private citizens have no business in those areas.
They can be where they want to be. And they can visit who they want to visit.
They can do whatever they want to do. But when you go into these areas and you're dealing with at a certain point, at a certain hour in the day, there's only two people on the street, cops and crooks. It used to be
that way, yeah. And that was an axiom that held true. Now, people could be doing all kind of shift work and jobs that are 24 hours.
There's always been shift
all that
work.
Kind of shit. But but not necessarily people dealing business overseas who are out different hours, whatever.
People who are dealing business overseas.
There's establishments that are open 24 hours a day that weren't open 24 hours a day.
Are not getting stopped by the cops because some cop thinks they're a street dealer or a gang.
But here's the thing.
For the love of
there's no sundown clause in the law that says it's okay to let people go out about their routine during hours of daylight, but when it gets dark, we can fuck with people.
No, that's right. However, and this was the whole premise of the show, was to tell the truth. The truth is, after a certain hour, there's only two types of people on the street: cops and crooks. That's it.
That's not
normal
not
people
like
are
anymore.
not on the street.
Not necessarily true. It's not as true as it once was. I'll say that. It's not as true as it once was.
It damn sure is.
Not as true as it once was.
And if you're out there in those crime neighborhoods, and a law enforcement officer sees you in a known area for narcotics or gang activity or both, and they see you and you happen to be of the persuasion that is involved in crime and narcotics and gangs in those areas.
Oh, I'm not saying it don't happen, but it ain't
tell
cool.
you.
It'll happen, sure.
I'll tell you.
Nobody can say it doesn't happen. I'm glad you're admitting this. It does happen.
And I learned this in gang school, is any good dope cop can always find a reason to stop a vehicle if you know the vehicle code.
Okay, and somebody pointed that out. There was a Baltimore PD officer, and I was going to bring that video in a couple of weeks ago, but it's just too long. He's a former Baltimore PD guy, and he talks about that he could follow any car for any length of time and find some reason to stop you.
Absolutely.
Because you're not, if you know the vehicle code, and we know the vehicle code more than most citizens do.
That's right.
You're not going to come to a complete stop. You're not going to signal for 100 feet
before
you change your lane.
You're going to weave within your lane.
There's all kind of shit you're going to do.
Your license plate light may be defective.
Maybe out. You're going to do dumb shit like hang air freshener from your rearview mirror, which is a vehicle code violation in California. You're going to do things like have your GPS in the middle of your windshield, which is another vehicle code violation in California. So there's things you're going to do that a police officer who knows the vehicle code is going to be able to pull you over. But let's press pause on that and take a call. Caller, what's your name and where you calling from?
Wow, already?
Jeff Brown, what's going on?
Jeff Brown, what's going down?
How you doing, Holt?
All right, man, what's happening?
Hey, hi, Gil.
Hey, how you doing, brother?
He said hi, Gil.
I know. I know.
Gil?
Yes, sir.
Couple of questions. One, I heard you say in a place that you're not supposed to be.
Correct.
Could you define that as in places that don't have obvious no trespassing or hour signs? Which place where I'm not supposed to be? And two, seeing as how there are no opium fields or poppy fields in the ghetto, could you please explain to me how it is that only black people are dealing drugs?
That's a two-part question.
Well, first of all, I don't know that only black people are doing drugs.
That's what didn't you say of a certain persuasion of people that deal drugs in a particular area?
I said if you're of the persuasion in the area where that persuasion sells drugs and is involved in narcotics activity, then that would hold true.
How did that persuasion in that area get those drugs if there are no opium fields in Inglewood?
You want to know how the heroin got into America? It's on the southern border, sir.
Okay. So my point is, with no planes, with no contacts outside, and with most of those brothers not even having passports, it's a little obtuse for you to imply that the only people dealing drugs in those areas are black people. The only people dealing bean pies in those areas are black people. The only people dealing barbecue in those areas are black people. But to say that the blanket shit that you say and then let slide, it makes my ass itch. And I was really trying to watch the show without calling in. But again, you on some bullshit right there.
All right. I never
imply. You're implying. It's not what you. I'm not telling you what it is. I'm going to tell you what it looked like. I don't know what it is.
Okay.
It looked like you saying that people of color are doing the most crime and dealing the most dope, and that's inaccurate.
Okay. Well, first of all, it's not inaccurate. But number two, what I was trying.
Whoa.
What I was trying to say.
Let's address that.
What I was trying to say was that if you're in a white community and it's white gang members and criminals that are dealing drugs, and you're white, you're going to get caught up if you're out after hours when you're not supposed to be. If you're in a black community, that's where in areas where black people are dealing drugs and you're black, there's a chance you could get stopped if you're out in high crime areas and it's after normal hours.
Okay.
If you're in a Latino community, it's the same. There's not just black people or quote people of color.
I'm going to make a blanket assumption right now. I'm going to guess that as a retired police officer, with what salary they make or what your pension is, not counting any investments you may have or may have had, I'm telling you now that by that blanket assumption, as a stand-up comedian, producer, and all-around hustler, I drive nicer cars than you, and I have more money than you do, going by what you made when you retired. I make more money than you.
Congratulations.
I'm out in the street
Congratulations,
all the
sir.
time. I'm out in the street all the time in nice cars going from recording studios, music studios, comedy clubs, and I am pulled over. And on a regular, I was pulled over by the Burbank Police Department when I lived in Burbank, driving an M5, a BMW M5. I was being pulled over.
Well, that's Burbank. And
Burbank's
got a whole other story. I have a friend who's a guest on here who sued the shit out of Burbank, who worked there and sued the shit out of Burbank. So, yeah, I'm not surprised that you got jammed up in Burbank.
Okay, so wait a minute, Holt. You saying Burbank is different than what? Different than who?
Burbank is known for that, is what I'm saying.
Okay, well, I would say the LAPD is known for that.
Well, it depends on what division you're in, but it depends on the demographics of the geographical area, et cetera, et cetera.
North Hollywood is where I've been pulled over a lot. Pico and La Brea is where I've been pulled over
Roscoe's.
a lot. Brentwood is I don't eat meat. Brentwood is where I've been pulled over a lot. Beverly Hills, I've been pulled over quite a bit.
I got so many stories about Beverly Hills PD.
So how are they different? Where is this utopian, wonderful Mayberry RFD group of cats y'all keep talking about? I haven't run into Andy Griffith yet.
Well, here's the deal. So if you're black and you're driving through Watts or Inglewood, that's not an anomaly, right? It's not an anomalous event. So you're not going to stand out. But
I get pulled over there too.
But listen, if you get pulled over there, it's a safer bet that it wasn't just because you were black, because there's a whole bunch of black people in those areas to pull over, right?
Okay, yeah.
If you're in Brentwood or you're in what was the first one you said, Burbank?
Yeah, one of those places I'm not supposed to be.
I bet you dollars of donuts that driving through there a certain time of night, the chances are better than even that you're going to get stopped, and it's going to be because you were possibly singled out.
Exactly.
Now, okay, so we talked about this on another show, the phenomenon of race out of place, right? I don't know if you're familiar with that film, Driving While Black, that was released earlier this year. But that's basically what that whole movie was about. And we had the writer and director and the actor on here on the show. And we went into the whole race out of place thing and actually got into another discussion about that with our other co-host, Kent Lee, who really kind of went to the left with that. But no, you're absolutely right in that if you are a race out of place, you stand a better chance of getting pulled over, especially in the wee hours. But I'm going to let Gil defend himself on the other thing about if you're part of that group that is involved in the narcotic sales in that area. Because the deal is typically if it's white gangsters selling dope, it's usually white people that live over there, Sunland, Tahunga, et cetera, right? If it's black gangsters selling dope, it's in a black neighborhood. Latinos, the same thing. Same thing with Asians.
Here's the problem with that. I know plenty of dudes that still got both feet in the street that sell plenty of dope to people who are not their age, their ages, their color, their demographic in any other way than they got money and the other folks got dope.
Now we talking about street level sales though?
I'm talking about everything from street level to a couple of pounds.
No, I think we're talking about street level here in terms of what a patrol officer is going to see and deal with.
If that were true, then the scene in Training Day where the white kids drove over into the Mexican ghetto and got pulled over by a white and a black police officer would make absolutely no sense. The concept.
No, we're talking about sales now. We're not talking. No. We're talking. No, that's not. We didn't say buy. We're talking about selling. White gangsters sell dope in white neighborhoods. Black gangsters sell dope in black neighborhoods. Latino gangsters sell dope, and white people buy dope every fucking where. I'm gonna tell you. I pop white people buying dope every place.
Everywhere.
Okay, so we're not talking about the buyers. We're talking about the sellers.
Okay, we talking about the sellers. I'm not going to use no names, but I was in the recording studio 30 days ago with somebody who shall remain nameless, who is not black, who ordered some dope. The dope showed up, and it was a brother at the door that I recognized from Inglewood.
Right.
That everybody know. Everybody know that that's what he do. So this concept, this is what I'm saying. These boxes,
But you said he delivered dope. But now we're not talking about somebody delivering, dope Uber, where they got a courier service. We're talking about standing on the sidewalk, nodding with the what's up and the whistling, and standing on the corner slinging dope. Literally standing on the corner slinging dope. Street level sales is all we're talking about. Hand to hand transaction, leaning in the car, serving dope. That's a whole different thing.
Sure, I'll give you that. But to say that clearly, like you just said, makes a hell of a lot more sense, and it paints a much more vivid, accurate picture than to say that the way that Gil constantly puts. This is just one thing, dude. Y'all wouldn't get a show done if somebody was really listening and really smart. And was really listening to the bullshit that Gil says. I say it and I say again. I don't know how you look other Mexican people in the face, bruh, to sit up and say some bullshit like black people or people of color. And really, this is what I'd like, and I'll take this off the air. Pretty please with sugar on top. Find me the statistics that incident by incident, weight for weight, black people sell more dope than white people. And I challenge you, bro. I have empirical evidence that you're wrong. Without incriminating myself or any of my homies, you dead fucking wrong. You wrong about that. Now, please show me where some other bigot agrees with you electronically or any other way that black people and Mexicans sell more dope than white folks. That's your mission should you decide to accept. Love y'all. I'm gone.
All right, Jeff. Thank you for the call. And that was Jeff Brown. And I'll give this answer off the air. Keep in mind that we were cops in L.A., okay? We were cops in the low-income parts of L.A. And that has been – so that's our basis for the stories that we tell and the anecdotal evidence that we present. And it's been our experience because we didn't – I dealt with some white boys that were selling dope over in Culver City and down in the harbor, mostly buying dope. We had a white boy in Culver City that was a shot caller with the Crips over there. White Mike, they call him. White Mike sold a gang of dope, but he was the exception rather than the rule in the housing projects in Los Angeles. So,
I'm not going to cite whatever. I don't even know what he was asking for. But I'll just tell you this: Latinos and African Americans are a smaller percentage of the total population in America, and they're the highest percentage of people in prison. And it isn't because of pipelines to prison or a broken, quote, criminal justice system, close quote, is because we're engaged in criminal activity at higher rates. That's it.
But that's part of
it's
the.
Just a fact.
There
are fewer of us.
That's a result of some of the things that have been in place throughout the years. I'm not saying it's an excuse.
That may be.
But that's a result of that.
That may be.
It's not a genetic inferiority or inclination toward criminality.
Nobody said that.
No, I know you didn't say that.
All I'm saying
I know you
is
didn't say that.
We're just involved at higher rates.
I'm just cutting down the.
That's just a little.
What am I doing? What do you call that? When you narrow something down, process of elimination to get to the source. It's not that. So what is it? And that pipeline to prison is something that, let's face it, man. There's cats out there doing shit that get breaks that other people don't get. At least the first time around, they'll get breaks that other people don't get. We've seen that. So
well, I don't know. I mean, Rhonda and I were at a school today, and is bringing a dope dog to a high school. Is that creating a pipeline to prison for kids who are bringing dope to school on campus? The parents and the administrators and the school districts don't want dope on their campuses. And so if you bring it on and my dog finds it, guess what? You're going to be in the system.
Okay, so that's a perfect example.
And
I'm
that's not going to
so glad you used that example.
And that has nothing to do with racism.
It does, and here's why. Because there's another school that you and I both know what I'm talking about, way out. Okay, and I'm not going to say the name of the school, but you and I know the school we're talking about.
Way out where?
Way out in the valley. That school.
Okay.
You know what I'm talking about?
No.
That school.
I don't know what school you're talking about.
We sat there for a little while earlier this year. That school. Okay?
Earlier this year?
Yeah, it'll come to you. Anyway, that school uses dope dogs too. But they use dope dogs after hours when the students aren't there to get caught with anything on their person. And they go and they sweep the lockers. And when they find the dope, they don't get the police involved. They get the parents involved, and then the parent deals with the kid on that dope. Whereas in other schools, they find dope on the kid because they run the dog while the kids are in school, and they call the police. So that's the difference there and how it's dealt with. It's not that the action is any different. It's not that the tool of you and the dog are any different. It's about when you're deployed and what the results are of what you find. That's where you find some inequity.
Well, I don't know.
But that's beyond your control.
I don't know that that's true. Because,
that's true. It's true.
I don't know that it is because I haven't experienced that. In fact, what I've experienced when I show up with my dope dog at a school, the people that bring us say, we don't really want to get the police involved. That's why we're using private contractors and not calling the police dog.
Right.
Because if a cop finds dope, he's got to do something with it. My dog can find dope. I just step back, and the school does what they want to do.
Right, and that's what I'm saying. So it's not up to you what happens after that. You find the dope, and that's that.
That's right.
But if you find it in the kid's possession, it's a much stronger case than if it's found in their locker, and the school is much more likely to get the police involved, mostly because the other school we're talking about is an exclusive, expensive-ass private school.
Oh, okay.
Does it click now?
Nah.
Does it click now? You know what I'm talking about.
It done clicked.
You know what I'm talking about.
Clicked.
Yeah. So,
well, I'll just tell you, the school that we were at was in a very white, very affluent area. I was surprised that was the school I was going to, actually. I thought it was going to be, some other more urban school. But it was in a very affluent area with a whole bunch of high-priced SUVs dropping off kids, and so just because there's money, just because they're white, doesn't mean that there's no crime. It doesn't mean that there's no drugs. Doesn't mean that there's no violence. And so, so this whole thing of like everything is driven by race is just silly. And that old '80s argument about we don't own planes and so you're trying to say the government, Well,
I think everybody understands it's the brown people that run the drug trade now, at least coming out of Mexico. Maybe it wasn't always that way.
Yeah, absolutely.
But in the last 20 years, it clearly has been. Hell, when did Scarface come out, right? The last 30 fucking years. It's clearly has been brown people bringing it with help of white people in terms of flying planes and looking the other way at customs and all that other shit. But we now know it's pretty clear who grows the drugs.
It's the Mexican drug cartels, and they're bringing it in. And
before them, it was the Colombians, and before them, it was the Cubans.
That's right. The federal government shut down that eastern seaboard, and that pushed everything west, and we've never been able to get a handle on it. And so the wall that Trump wants to build is a necessary one, because I'll tell you, when I did dope school with my dope dog, the classes that I got to go to as a result of that, and CNOA classes and other stuff that I got to go to, there is money, dope, guns, and people being transferred back and forth across that border every day. The Mexican cartels operate daily in Southern California.
Now, I will. That's one of the few things that I would have to say that I agree with Donald Trump on, but not to keep out people from Mexico who are coming to look for a better life. It is to keep out the narcotics and the terrorist shit that goes on back and forth. And here's my thing. Let's build a wall, but let's build two walls. Let's build one at the Mexican border. Let's build one at the Canadian border. There shouldn't be any difference. A transnational border is a transnational border.
The difference is there's not that much activity on the northern border.
But what's going to happen?
As there is on the southern border.
But what's going to happen? Like you just said, when they shut down the eastern seabord, they had to start bringing it in through Mexico, right? Because they couldn't come in that way.
I don't know if Mexico's going to go around the United States into Canada and then come back in.
Hell yeah, they will. Economics, hell yeah, they will.
I don't know.
Hell yeah, they will. Hey, they've been building tunnels, expensive ass tunnels to get under those walls. They'll take a damn boat up and come down, or a plane and go over and come back. Sure they will. They'll do it. There's enough money in it. People do anything with enough money.
Well, there's definitely enough money in it, because there's a whole bunch of dopers in America.
Yeah, exactly. There's a whole bunch of money involved. Okay, so listen. One more social media comment.
The last thing I want to say about weed, especially, is if you're a pot smoker, you are funding the Mexican cartels, and you are the reason for that insurgency at the southern border.
I don't agree with that. And here's why I don't agree with that. Because I just read an article in Esquire magazine, the current issue of Esquire, with Clint Eastwood and Scott Eastwood on the cover. They talk about how the legalization of marijuana in the United States broke the Mexican cartel's profits to the point where they had to get into heroin, because that's not legal. Mm-hmm. And that's what's fueling a lot of the heroin problem, because they were able to flood the market, or they had to flood the market with cheap heroin. Because there's a lot of marijuana that's being grown right here and being sold California. Right here, and it's not. That money never touches the cartel's pocket. Never touches the cartel's
triangle.
Pocket. Right, and it has nothing to do with Mexico. It doesn't touch the Mexican cartel's pocket at all. People are getting their marijuana from other sources. I just came back from Las Vegas today, and right across from where I was staying, there's a medical marijuana clinic just lined up down Flamingo Boulevard.
Right,
there's a shitload, and there's a big banner that says "California patients welcome."
Yeah, well, it's the new America. It's the new doped up America.
Well,
congratulations, California.
I will say this.
You smoke weed?
Fuck no.
Oh, okay. My bad. You sound so liberal. I thought the next thing you're gonna do is light up a joint here.
Got to be jiving.
I don't know. I'm just saying. I don't know.
But you know what? I ain't judging people who like to smoke weed. If you're a pothead, do your thing. I don't care, because I'll knock back some single barrel, Jack Daniels, or a double black Johnny Walker. So, whatever. I ain't judging you. That just ain't my thing. Here's the other thing. So here's a tweet that we got from Ismail, who's called in sometime. Who's called in before, and hey man, I appreciate you. And he actually did this after like 2 shows ago, when we had the Fair DUI guy on. And the tweet was, Ride Along Radio, your thoughts on getting mandatory written consent from everyone. And that was as a result of us talking about consent searches, and Fair DUI guy saying, I don't consent to any searches. I'm a lawyer, etc. Right. So I asked for clarification. I go, you mean just on general principle, like when you get your driver license? And his response is no, when they've been stopped by an officer and asked to search the vehicle. So I looked into that, about the use of written consent to search forms. And I don't think I've ever seen one. And every time I've gotten consent to search, it's always been verbal. Right. And it's always stood up in court, but there are apparently some agencies that do use these written consent to search forms. And essentially there's a couple of things that have to go into consent to search, right? The officer has to have the authority to conduct a search. It has to be someone who has the authority to conduct a search. It has to be, the person has to have not been coerced in any way. They have to have not been detained for an exceptionally long period of time. There's all these things that go into someone giving you verbal consent to search. Mm-hmm. So a written consent to search form cuts a lot of that doubt out, because you have right there with the form person saying, I'm not under duress, I consent to this search. Because later on you can say, I didn't give you consent to search, and then it's the officer's word versus the suspect's word, right? The defendant's word.
That was before body cams.
Before body cams, right? So that's one of the things with body cams, you don't have to worry about that. Mm-hmm. But in some cases, Like there was a law, a Texas law, I think got struck down in 2005 when Rick Perry was governor, and that was going to require written consent to search. So the verbal consent was no longer going to be enough. But they put a bunch of other bullshit writers on it or whatever, and he vetoed it. So, but here's one of the things that this attorney wrote about that, about using written consent to search forms. The use of a form is not a legal requirement, but is a matter of proof. We are living in times where the police officer's word, which once was accepted as truth merely because of the position, no longer enjoys that status.
That's right. The new America. That's right.
The fact that the witness is employed as a law enforcement officer does not necessarily cloak the officer with a mantle of believability. I like that. Yep. They should issue those again, the mantle of believability.
I remember when I had one.
Yeah, me too.
Over the fireplace.
A mantle.
Yeah.
For this reason, officers need an edge. One way to obtain this edge in the courtroom is to produce a written evidence of the subject's consent. This often can make the difference between winning and losing a case. And this is written by Robert T. Thetford, who's a Juris Doctorate, attorney at law, et cetera, et cetera. And I think, though, you bring up a very good point about body cameras, right? So people say police officers should wear body cameras, and I don't disagree with that at all. I think there should be some more guidelines. And just like anything else, any other new technology, there's going to have to be things put in place as the use of the technology matures and we see some of the pitfalls of it and some of the advantages, right? Because think about all the rules that cover cell phones and shit now. Before, in camera phones and images people transmit, there was no rules about that 10 years ago. It was new technology. So I think that's one of those good things about that is that it'll all be right here on videotape, you consenting to the search and the conditions under which you're consenting to.
Right. The body cams have already saved a whole bunch of cops' careers. People don't like to go to jail. People don't like to get tickets, and so they lie. Sometimes they lie, and
people don't like to do time. That's the thing, right?
Nobody wants to go to jail.
Or how about they think you're not going to find it, so they give you consent, thinking you ain't ever going to find it, and then when you find it, then all of a sudden, I never say you could search my car. Right?
Well, criminals are hopeful.
Yes.
They hope, as they're driving down the street holding dope, they hope they won't get stopped.
Right.
But if they do get stopped, they hope the officer won't ask to search the car.
Right.
But if he does search the car, they hope he won't find it. But if he does find it, they hope they won't get arrested. Right. But if they do get arrested, they hope they won't go for long, just get a ticket and get released.
Right.
So they're hopeful.
There's a lot of different opportunities for flexibility in there.
They're hopeful all the way through.
That's not a bad proposition.
Because they say, hey, you never know. You never know.
Well, you know what? And I've heard people say that it was a career criminal. I think it was Murph the Surf, who was a big burglar back in the day in Miami, that said, I wouldn't mind spending 70% of my life behind bars if it meant I could live the other 30%, living my life the way I wanted to live it. So if you don't mind going to the joint or you just want to roll the way you want to roll, then you can be hopeful.
Yeah.
Hey, Ismail, I hope that answered your question. We're going to go to a break, and we're going to be right back here on the Ride Along Radio Show. See you in a minute. All right, and welcome back to the Ride Along Radio Show. We have not given out the number, but apparently our man Jeff Brown had us on speed dial. So the number is 323-293-3375.
I just got a message here on my book here on my phone here. It says, just tell George to move to Colorado.
I got the same text from the same guy.
Oh, did you?
Who I just talked to the other day. So shout out to Ed Rash. Just talked to Ed on Sunday. I think, Ed, we talked on Sunday morning. Something like that. Yeah, good dude, man. I always like that dude.
Yeah, he says whenever you get ready to start smoking weed. So
it's come to Colorado. Yeah, we talked about that too.
You could move SGI there.
I know, right?
That'd be great. You could teach guns in the day.
And smoke dope at night?
And then smoke dope at night. Sure.
Yeah. Somebody's probably doing that.
I could see it.
Somebody's probably doing that. So
that's funny to me.
So there's the we left off answering Ismail Fahmi's Twitter question about written consent for searches. But yeah, it used to be there's a police officer, and I came on right before Rodney King. So I had probably a good year or two of being able to enjoy that the mantle of believability in the court of law before it got all fucked up. But but you had longer to enjoy that, right?
Yeah. Well, our word was it was gold.
Right.
In the
the
courtroom.
police officer said something went down a certain way, it went down that way.
That's what happened.
Yeah.
That's what happened. And, as much as people like to think, oh, cops are out there making shit up and, they just want to harass people of color, I didn't see that.
Well, here's the thing.
I never saw anybody lie. There was stuff going on, but the guys who were doing things they weren't supposed to do, they eventually do themselves.
Right, and I agree with that. That guy who's out there screwing up will eventually do himself, like in this story we're going to talk about later. That guy had 17 complaints before he fucking murdered somebody. So, basically, but here's the problem. All along the way, that guy was still a police officer, and then he murdered somebody. Well, so that's the issue. So what happens in the interim
I don't know anybody
until that guy does himself?
I don't know anybody that murdered anybody.
Well, we don't know anybody personally, but I'm just saying, but it happens.
I don't know anybody.
And so all along the way, what happens?
But when you're new to the department, as you come in, you start seeing, you get the personalities, and there's always the one or two, or maybe even a little group of, those dudes are crazy.
Right.
So, if you have to work with them, just remember where the lines are and what the law is, and they're going to do their thing. They do their thing. You do you. You do yours, and do it the right way, and you'll be fine. So there's always those guys, and then there's the aggressive guys. There's the meat eaters, and then there's the salad eaters. That are the officer friendlies, and you want to be somewhere in between. You don't want to be too hard, but I don't want to be too soft. On the street, niceness is seen as weakness. And so, a career criminal, somebody on parole, somebody on probation, somebody with a career criminal.
A sociopath, period.
They don't even think they're sociopaths.
They don't realize it.
Right. But, if you have to deal with these people, you have to deal with them in a way where you're one up all the time.
Well, because they look at kindness as weakness.
That's right.
A lot of times,
That's right. So none of that has anything to do with racism or
Well, here's the thing. So if you are a racist cop and you're working in an area where people that fall into the group that you don't like live, you will find criminals of that group. If you just like locking up orange people or purple people or whatever, or black or brown people or white people, you're going to find people who are fucking up and will give you every reason in the world. You have more than enough work to do if you work in a high crime area. Mm-hmm. If you do not work in a high crime area, if say I worked in I won't say the name, but say you worked in an affluent area that was surrounded by the city of Los Angeles on all times and had on all sides and had the most expensive shopping street, most famous shopping street in the world running down the middle of it. If you work for that city,
I wonder what city that is.
Yeah, and you didn't like black people, you don't get a whole lot of opportunity to deal with black criminals, okay? You don't have a whole lot of opportunity for your racism to manifest itself. So when you see somebody coming through there that matches that description, then maybe you are going to kind of veer towards stopping that person based on that or whatever, especially when the mandate in that city is if that person's a resident, you shine their ass. They really are very customer service oriented in this hypothetical city that I'm talking about. We used to call them butlers with guns was a nickname for them amongst my little group. But those guys don't really get up. So if they see something that looks like a good stop in their mind, then, man, they're going to pull over and stop that car. And that's what used to happen back in the day, back during my youth, my pre-law enforcement days, and even after I became a police officer, because those guys don't get enough action, so to speak. So if they see something that looks like action, man, they're going to jump on it. And this also goes to recruiting and assigning police officers who have an understanding of that community, either because they're from the community or they just have kind of shown a knack for that or whatever. Because here's the thing: if you don't know, I had one of my friends tell me this years ago, and he's not the only person who feels this way. He said to me one day, it's a white officer, one of the best people I know, great friend. He says, man, he goes, it seems that blacks are either criminals or they're cops. And I thought about that, and I kind of laughed because most of my friends, we are, but we're cops, right? And I got some guys that grew up that became crooks. But what about my friend Pierce, who became a sound engineer, and my friend Michael, who's a doctor, and all these other guys who went to do other shit that has nothing to do, but he doesn't have that experience because he didn't grow up with black people. He's from Huntington Beach. He didn't grow up with any black people. When he became a police officer, he worked with black cops. and he dealt with black criminals.
Mm-hmm.
He didn't. That's his experience. So in his mind, if you're black, in his mind, you're likely to be a criminal, or you could be a cop.
All right, here's where I'm going to take issue with you, because if you ever read the book it's called The Outliers, and it's written by a New York Times journalist, and it's very interesting. It's a study on successful people, and he asked questions like, how do you become the Microsoft guy? What's that guy's name?
Bill Gates.
How do you become Bill Gates? How do the Beatles, out of thousands of musicians, how do they become, quote, the Beatles? How does that happen?
Uh-huh.
And there were some things about when you were born and things like that had a
time and place,
had an impact.
Sure.
Exactly. But more important than any of that was this magic number, and the magic number is 10,000 hours. Now, 10,000 hours is what it takes any person to master a thing.
Sure.
So whatever the thing is, after 10,000 hours, it's become second nature to you.
Sure.
You live it, you breathe it, you think it, it becomes who you are.
Sure.
In law enforcement, after you've had 10,000 hours out on the streets, especially in an urban area, you can look and go, that's a hype, that's a tweaker, that's a crackhead, that's a burglar, that's a gang member, he's running dope. You can just look at people, and you just know because of all of the experiences you have. The moment you see it, boom, it hits that. Oh yeah, I recognize that,
right.
And it's instantaneous. So, for my experience in police work is, that's what happens more than, I didn't grow up. I mean, this notion about, guys from Orange County working
because where
urban
you work.
areas.
Because of where you work. But the guy I'm talking about didn't work in where we worked.
No, I understand that. But I know guys that work in these beach cities and stuff like that.
And do you think that guys who work in beach cities can do the same thing that we can do?
They recognize, if they've been on the job long enough, they recognize criminal behavior. They recognize the subtleties of a personality and body language that is tied to some criminal act. That's what cops are looking for. Cops don't care what color you are. Cops are looking for behavior that is consistent with criminal behavior, and that's what they're looking for.
But here's where the transference comes through, and here's where the bleed through comes through. If all the black people you deal with, because you're going to deal with citizens sometime. When I say citizens, I mean civilians who are not criminals and they're not police officers. They're just
normal people.
They're normal people, as Gil would
normal
say.
people.
You don't really deal with them a whole lot unless they're victims.
Correct.
Or maybe you pull them over for traffic.
Probably never have contact with a cop.
But if every 95% of the 19-year-old black males that you deal with are criminals, it's hard for you, and just human nature, not to transfer that over, and you see a young black male, and that's where your mind kind of goes, because you don't have anything to balance that out.
If you see a black male and he's not involved in behavior that is consistent with being tied to some sort of criminal act, you're still going to think that?
Well, I'm trying to come up with an excuse for the dudes who used to fuck with me. Okay? I'm trying to come up with some reason why I would get stopped and fucked with when I didn't have there's no reason for you to think that I was involved in anything. So I don't know why you're asking me, have you ever been to the joint? What gang are you from? All that kind of horse shit. It's like, fucking really? So I'm trying to figure out, other than just being out and out racist assholes, why you would ask me that question. And so I've spent a lot of time thinking about this, and being on the receiving end of that, and then being a police officer also, or becoming a police officer later, it made me think, well, this guy's experience, that's what shaped him. And then when my friend said to me about the cops or criminals comment, well, the guy's thinking, if you're not a cop, then that kind of narrows it down. And so maybe it's just human nature, but these guys lean that way. And I'm going to say that an officer who works in an area where he doesn't have a lot of high crime activity, he doesn't really know. He hasn't developed that same sense of things that a street cop, a ghetto cop, has developed. So he doesn't look at that and say that's this.
He may not develop it as quickly, but eventually he gets there.
Eventually,
so If you get a guy
trial
in one
and
of
error.
these white cities and he's got 12 years on the job, and you got a ghetto cop who's got 3 years on the job,
They're
their
about the same.
experiences are going to be about
That's
the
about
same.
the same.
That's
Sure.
right.
So that first 9 years, he's just fucking with people.
Well, I don't know if he's fucking with people. I think he's just enforcing the law.
Okay.
And it makes me crazy, and it brings me back to the new America that now wants all this that you just read, about 3 minutes ago. In the new America, we can't believe the cops anymore. In the new America, we want to believe the criminals.
Okay, but hold on now. Let's talk about that.
Thank God,
how did we get there?
Thank God for body cams. That's all I could say.
Well,
thank
okay.
God for body cams.
And that happened. We got there. Remember I said I came on pre-Rodney King. I came on and I graduated the academy in January of 1989. Rodney King happened 2 years later. 2.5 years later, something like that. Mm-hmm. And what happened was officers wrote a report one way, not knowing that video was out there, and then the video surfaced and it showed that they weren't telling the truth. And that has happened enough times to where people say officers no longer have that mantle of believability. And that's why I keep saying we're the ones who fucked that up. People, there's not a false narrative that police officers don't always tell the truth. That's just true. It just wasn't able, people weren't able to prove that before. Okay? How often you hear guys talk about tester lying or pencil fucking somebody? You're like, yeah, you heard that. You're laughing because you've heard that shit before, right?
I'm laughing because you're mischaracterizing it.
I'm not how am I mischaracterizing? It didn't happen?
Because pencil fucking means, okay, you want to be a dipshit, you want to fight, you want to act crazy or whatever, and then you want to blame your race on it. Fine. Any violation that I can put into my report.
That's one definition. Sure.
That's going into the report.
Sure.
And you acted like that on the street. Well, guess what? On the street doesn't count. This is what counts.
Right.
Because this is what gets filed with the DA or the city attorney's office. This is what goes to the court. This is much more important than how tough you are out on the street.
And as long as you keep to the truth, that's not pencil fucking somebody. That's pencil whipping somebody.
You can pencil whip. Okay, pencil whipping.
Pencil fucking somebody is when you lie and say the person gave you consent or you saw something that you didn't see, et cetera, et cetera. Mm. So it's different between a whipping and a fucking. They both involve the pencil, but it's a little different. So, so officers fucked that off.
Are you sure you're not?
You stopped me when I started lying. Officers have fucked that up. That's why people don't believe the police anymore, because cops got caught lying.
Can we do
that? Ain't no false narrative.
Can we do urine tests before the show?
Hey, we can do one right now. I'll pass a piss test any day of the week.
All right. Because
don't test me for tequila.
You just came back.
We'll be all right.
You just came back from Vegas and you said there was a dispensary across the street.
It was right across the street. Right.
That's just my concern. That's all.
You ain't got to worry about me with that.
You're talking crazy.
Well, did I lie? Like I said, you stopped me when I started lying.
Look,
the guys get caught lying, yes or no?
Do they? Yes.
Is that why we no longer have the mantle of believability?
So no, that's not why.
Why don't we? Is it Barack Obama's fault? Did he recall our mantles of believability?
No, the mantles of believability were fine. And then we get this president who has a different vision.
I'm talking about Rodney King, man. That got fucked off after Rodney King. Barack Obama was going to Occidental College in L.A. during Rodney King. He wasn't the president. He wasn't even a senator. He wasn't even a community organizer yet.
He was just smoking
weed. We can't blame him for that. He was getting high and going to school up in Eagle Rock at Occidental College. So we can't blame him for that.
You're trying to conflate issues that
That's a Trish word, conflate. I like that word, by the way.
That are not related, and you want to relate them.
Well, how is that not related to the cloak, the mantle of believability? I like that one, man.
You
God
like
damn. The cloak of the officers who used to wear the cloak of the mantle of believability. But we got caught lying, man, and that's why people said we can't believe cops anymore.
We did not. You didn't. I didn't.
Well,
we didn't.
No. See, I don't do that in sometime, out sometime shit. Just like people come up and they thank me after 9/11 when I was nowhere near New York City. And all the free shit and discounts and all the cool shit you got after 9/11. Hey, man, you take the good with the bad. I say we because we're part of the brotherhood. We got to roll with it. We got to ride that beef. Okay. Just like when somebody does some heroic shit, that's cool, right? We want to get the accolades for that, or we want to bask in that. Somebody does some fucked up shit, we got to ride that out too. That's how I look at it, man. Either you're in or you're out. So that's ride or die, as they say in the streets, right? So. I'm down with it. Period, from beginning to end.
All right. Well, you sound like the president. So I guess let's.
Well, that's good. The president have a lot in common. So
let's blame cops. Let's do that.
Well, I'm blaming cops for cops no longer having the mantle of believability.
All right. Let's blame them.
Okay.
Let's not blame criminals. Let's not blame activists. Let's not blame politicians.
They ain't making it up.
Let's not blame progressives. Let's
they
not
ain't
blame
making
this
it
false
up.
narrative that's been pushed. Especially,
there you go with false narrative. Somebody said you use that once a show at least. False narrative.
I have to. You guys keep pushing
But that's not a false narrative. Police officers being caught lying ain't a false narrative.
Okay. All right. Let's blame the cops. Fuck them. It's the cops.
It's the cops. Fuck them.
Yeah, fuck
All right.
Fuck the police. Fuck the police.
See, now that's one song we have banned from here, and you're going to go do a cappella version of it.
Oh, my bad. I'm sorry. I go back to Kool Moe Dee, the Wild Wild West.
There you go. And she with the gunshots. All right. So if you're involved in foreign travel, especially if you're involved in international travel security.
If you're trafficking in bodies.
Not that, but just foreign travel. If you're involved in international travel security like we are, then you are aware that the United States Department of State issues what's called travel warnings to U.S. citizens. So, example, if you were going to go to the Dominican Republic, they would warn you about pickpockets. If you were going to go to Mexico, they would warn you about kidnapping.
Now, wait a second. Is that racist?
No, it's a national thing. It's just they're just saying
so everybody in
if you're an American,
everybody in the Dominican Republic is a pickpocket.
No. If you're an American, be aware that this country has this problem when you go there. That's all. I don't know that it's racist.
Sure sounds racist to me.
But
in New America talk,
in the New America,
in New America talk,
do you need a safe place?
Well, I'm not from the Dominican Republic, but if I was, I'd be offended at the fact that you're trying to imply
that shit goes down. Well, hey, you haven't heard the worst of it.
Oh no, you're trying to imply that everybody in the Dominican Republic is a goddamn pickpocket.
Okay, or in Mexico, kidnapping.
Yeah.
Or certain human rights violations in other parts of the world. Well, I guess the Bahamas decided that what was good for the goose is good for the gander because the Bahamas Ministry of Tourism released a travel warning to their citizens that when they're visiting the United States to be careful of their interactions with the U.S. police. So I'd never seen that before. I'd never seen us get a travel warning. Shit. We got a travel warning on everybody else.
Oh, that's funny.
So I guess turnabout's fair play.
That's funny.
So yeah, the Bahamas Foreign Ministry issued that travel warning. We
have American citizens who go to the most corrupt police around. It's just south of the border, but we don't put a travel warnings like that because if we did, we'd be called what?
There are. No.
We'd be racist.
If you go to the Department of State, travel.gov, and look at they talk about police corruption in Mexico.
Oh, they do? Okay.
Oh, they do. And they talk about, and the big kidnappings was this thing they call express kidnappings, right? And so what they'll do is they'll come snatch you up and then make you go to the ATM to get money out. Or they'll snatch you up and hold you for like 2 hours till whoever they call comes and delivers some money to somebody or something. So it's just these real quick turnaround, $200-$300. But they do this with Americans or affluent Mexican citizens.
Yeah, there ain't nothing down there. I know a whole bunch of people, my Latino friends, especially the activist ones. They just love to talk about how if you ever go to breakfast with a Mexican. If you ever do, I don't even
like the way that shit started out.
I'm just saying if you ever do.
The way that started out. I do it all the time. But I don't like the way that started out.
I want you to watch. Just watch in the future. You ever go to breakfast with a Mexican? He will
Desayuno con el mexicano.
He has to get Tabasco sauce to put on his food.
Not Cholula?
You
gotta get the wood top.
It's got to be Tabasco.
Or the other one. What's the Tapatio?
Gonna have the
Tapatio. You got to have the Tapatio.
Tabasco. We have to put that on our food. It's required if you want to be accepted in the quote Latino community club.
Well, Hillary Clinton carries a bottle of hot sauce in her purse.
Yeah, right. The Red Rooster,
so
right?
She says Red Rooster, and that's the deal. See, okay, let's talk about that. We're talking about cultural things, all right? So you can't break out Tabasco. It's got to be some real Louisiana style.
We call it Louisiana.
Not Tabasco's from Louisiana too.
Louisiana.
But real like Red Rooster or Trappies or something like that. You know what I mean? The real shit they have at the fish market. You can't just break out the Tabasco. Tabasco's a little high end. It's a little high end.
The uppity Mexicans that I've had breakfast with,
and they're going to Tabasco, not the green Tabasco.
No, the red.
That green Tabasco's bomb though.
Yeah. The one thing people forget is that not only was I in law enforcement, but I also did criminal defense work for a number of years with a partner of mine. And I'll just tell you, real criminals, career criminals, guys who are just caper. That's what they do. Some people, you get up and you go, I better go to the dispensary, get my weed, and then I got to go train. I get up, me and Rhonda got to go do our thing or whatever.
Right.
We get up and do that. Well, criminals get up each day and go, I got to go move some dope. I got to go rob this guy. I'm going to break into that house. We got to go scope this. That's what they do.
Steal some rims.
That's just what they do. They caper. And so where am I going with this?
You were talking some racist shit about breakfast with Mexicans. I don't know.
Oh man, you made my train of thought.
And then we get into breaking into houses and shit. But, I don't know.
Career criminals. I lost it.
We were talking about people getting up and what their daily routine was, right?
Yeah.
And what a career criminal does.
Yeah. But there was a point I was going to make about that.
Man, those 60 years are setting in. Old age is a bitch, ain't it?
Having a senior moment here. It'll come to me when I do.
Okay. Hey, update on Ryan Lochte. We did a Ryan Lochte story last week. We talked about Lion Ryan. Apparently, he lost a bunch of endorsements.
I have a question, though. Mm-hmm. The media is huge on Ryan Lochte being a liar.
Right.
Why are they giving Hillary a pass?
Because somebody's already called her Crooked Hillary. She's Crooked Hillary. Crooked Hillary.
Why don't she's lying to the latest AP story on her email thing? Every time she speaks, she just digs the hole deeper, but it doesn't seem to have any effect on her supporters. I'm just wondering why.
Well, you know what?
Why an Olympic swimmer? Why is he catching so much shit for filing the false police report? And here you have a presidential candidate who ought to be freaking indicted, and she gets a pass. Why is that?
Well, can I tell you one big reason? He admitted to it.
Tell me a reason.
I'm telling you, he admitted to it. He admitted he lied.
Oh, so
he admitted to it.
So if she would just admit it,
then you have a big ass story.
She should just turn. You know what she should do? She should just call the FBI director
and turn herself in.
And turn herself in. That's what she should do.
Well, that ain't going to happen. But he did. He admitted that he was lying.
And she should turn around and put her hands behind her back.
They just gave her the handcuffs and you put them on like Eddie Cole and the Strawberry. You put those on, get in the back seat.
Now I want Comey to hook her up. Click, click.
Yeah. Well, that ain't going to happen. Apparently, no time soon. But
that's just funny to me.
But that's why I'm telling you, he admitted that he lied, and that's why.
Yeah, so he's more honest than freaking Hillary Clinton. Isn't that something? Wow. Maybe he should run for president. For God's sake.
You know what? He may as well. I don't think he's old enough yet, but he may as well. So he did admit that he lied and kind of hung his boys out to dry. And so now I called him Lion Ryan, but someone shout out to Dee Barnes. She calls him the real Swim Shady.
That's funny.
I like that one. Yeah, the real Swim Shady. With a real Swim Shady.
Stand up.
Please stand up. Yeah, exactly. So look, we're coming up on our last break here.
Oh man,
we're just whizzing through. When we get back from break, we're going to get into the Chicago Police Department. And there those 7 officers who are going to get rolled up for lying about the Laquan McDonald shooting. And we'll talk about the investigation and the probable outcomes, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah, and the Lion cops. Let's talk about
the Lion cops.
Sure.
All right, welcome back to the Ride Along Radio Show here on the Morris Media Network. I'm George Holt.
And I'm Gil Contreras.
Hey, our call-in number is 323-293-3375. And since we both are seasoned police investigators, we're able to track down Gil's train of thought. And he's going to complete that sentence that he started earlier.
Right. So I was saying, normal people get up each day and we do our thing. Criminals get up each day and they caper. And because I have not only the law enforcement side, but I have the defense side. And I'm going to just tell you this. Criminals are laughing right now at the laws in California.
In terms of Prop 47, et cetera?
Prop 47, making all those felonies misdemeanors. They're laughing. And they're taking advantage of the system. They're taking advantage of the new America. In this new America, all they have to do is plead victims. And it's really interesting because when you get into the jails with these guys, talking to them, they'll go, I did the thing, but can't you just get me off? Well, no.
I did it, but.
But can't you find a technicality?
Well, a loophole.
Well, not all the time, and you go, right. I looked at the video and it was you.
That was you. You did it,
and you did it. Yeah, I know, but can't you find something?
That's that generation of not wanting to accept accountability, man.
That's but that's what you have in the jails. You have these people who are laughing, and we can create this new America that the left seems to want, the political left in this country that they seem to want, and that's what makes this election. I thought the one in 2008, when I was watching this guy, Barack Obama, come out of nowhere, and I would listen to what he had to say, and I go, wow, that's interesting. I don't know how he's going to do any of that, but it's interesting at least.
Right.
I didn't believe him. I didn't believe he could do the thing. But, people were, their eyes were well with tears, Oprah crying, Jesse Jackson crying when he got, okay. Well, I thought that was a turning point for America. I thought, well, okay, let's see where this goes. The first black president, like, who cares?
No, that's a big deal, man. That's a big deal.
Well,
that's a big deal.
Apparently, to people with white guilt and people of color, it's a big deal.
No, that's a big deal, man. Because that's a good watermark of our country. That's a watershed moment.
It has nothing to do with the country. But 8 years of him now, and the country is in the worst place that it was even after the freaking George Bush W.
In terms of what?
Economically,
that's bullshit.
No, it's not.
That's bullshit.
No, it's not. And the dollar
People are spending money like crazy.
The dollar is being supported by the Fed, and interest rates are purposely being kept low. And the Fed is cranking out dollars, and they're not afraid. And that's causing the stock market to look like it's good, but it isn't.
And people are spending money because they have money.
They have a bunch of paper that is worthless.
But that's because they have jobs. They have money because they have jobs.
Not in the black community, they don't.
Who told you you've been listening to Donald Trump?
No, you better check the data. Your boy likes data. You better check that data. But here's my point. This progressive push that he started in 2008, when we got to 2012, I thought, well, now before we didn't know who the hell he was. But now, after 4 years of his first term, I thought, well, now we have a whole record of messed up stuff, and so we could point to it.
But a lot of people don't look at that as messed up stuff.
And people would say, well, it's like in 2012, I think, what was it, 90%, 90% of the black community was going to support Barack Obama, but only 40% supported his positions. What that tells you is that I don't support his positions, but I'm voting for him because he's black, because he's having a hard time. I'm black, I'm having a hard time, so he's black, he's having a hard time too. So I'm going to just vote for him.
Well,
that's what's killing America.
Yeah, see, here's the thing, though.
And
no other black candidate ever had that kind of support from the black community before. So it's not just because he was black. Well, Jesse Jackson had those kind of numbers.
If you have 90% voting for you, but only 40% agree with you, why are they voting for him? Thank you very much.
Well, I don't know where you got that from.
I'm
going to do like you did me earlier. Well, I don't know that that's the case, so I can't say that that's true.
Okay. I'll move on, though.
Okay, because we got to get to our story.
I'll move on.
Okay.
So the point is, criminals are laughing at you. They're laughing because now the cops are under the microscope, not the criminals.
Right.
They get to pass. And in fact, it's
a societal pendulum.
Oh, jeez.
At least the criminals don't have a cloak of believability.
They never did. Well, they do now.
They don't have a cloak of believability.
Now they do.
It's just things are kind of evened out a little bit.
They have evened out.
Now nobody's got the cloak of believability.
But this is the new America, and so in November, if this is the direction you want to go, vote for Hillary. Well, if you want to create a quote new America close quote,
according to you, it's already here.
It's the beginning. This is the beginning of the end. These last 8 years are the beginning of the end of the America that I grew up in.
Well, you know what? Some people are damn glad to see the change too. All right. So look, our story, our big topic today, and this is who asked me about this on YouTube. Imani Nile asked our thoughts on the Chicago PD superintendent's recommendations regarding the Laquan McDonald case, and we actually have a video on that. One Chicago PD officer charged with murder, 7 more pending termination, and the Laquan McDonald shooting. And we're going to play a video, and we're going to discuss that ad nauseum.
Chicago's police superintendent has recommended firing 7 officers after they were accused of lying about the details of Laquan McDonald's fatal shooting in 2014. This decision comes almost 2 years after Officer Jason Van Dyke shot McDonald 16 times. Van Dyke was charged with first-degree murder and is on unpaid leave. The release of a dashboard video of the incident made national headlines and sparked protests. The video shows the officer continued to fire after McDonald fell to the ground. A federal investigation of the Chicago Police Department is currently underway. 7 out of the 10 officers who were investigated over their roles in the shooting were accused of making false reports or false statements.
All right. So when this came out, I believe actually your sister, baby sis Trish, as I call her, Trish Navaratnasingam,
your new bestie.
Yeah, I a new BFF. She posted this story on Facebook and she tagged us both in it. And she said, "Hey, you guys should probably talk about this on the show," or words to that effect. And I recall us having a little debate about it not being newsworthy because this is what's supposed to happen.
Right.
If guys lie, they're supposed to be fired. And
Right.
then that's the system working as it.
If you kill somebody, you're supposed to be prosecuted for God's
If you kill somebody, if you murder somebody, not kill somebody, if you murder somebody, you're supposed to be prosecuted. Because we kill people all the time that need to be killed, and there's no prosecution involved. But if you murder somebody.
Oh, that did need to be killed.
That did need to be killed,
Okay.
yes. We kill people all the time that had it coming. Okay, and that's just part of police work ain't pretty.
Well,
okay?
in the new America, that's going to change.
Well, you know,
Even people that should be killed, they don't want.
well, we saw that in Milwaukee,
in the new America,
where the dude is a career criminal that gets points a gun at a cop, gets killed by the black cop that he pointed his gun at as a black criminal, and then everybody was upset because he got his birthday canceled.
Yeah.
But you know, what do you think is going to happen? Right?
Well, that's the new America.
Well, in this case,
much.
though, what I found was newsworthy about this case was not that the officers were going to be fired and not that the officer was going to be charged with murder, although that is an anomaly for an officer to be charged with murder and on-duty shooting. That's an anomaly. It doesn't happen very often because most of them, number one, aren't murders. They're killings. But even when it's shaky, to go out and out murder is something that didn't happen much before. It's happening more and more now. In the new America, as Gil would say. But this would seem to be a legit deal. But what I found most newsworthy was that 7 officers lied to help cover up what essentially appears to have been a murder. That's the thing that was newsworthy. When have we ever seen something like that happen where you had officers involved in that? Now, that footage did leak out from a source within inside the Chicago Police Department. So everybody wasn't up for the bullshit. Everybody wasn't in on the cover-up.
Right.
But that 7 officers knew that something funky had gone down and then lied to help cover it up. That to me is, I don't know anything about Chicago police culture. I don't think that I've ever even met a Chicago police officer. I've met officers from pretty much every major department across the country. I don't know that I've ever met a Chicago police guy. I actually knew Richard Kobitz, who's a retired commander, but that was years ago. But I didn't know that. That's pretty bold shit there, that would happen. And then 7, actually there was 10 people wrapped up in it, but 2 of the officers had already retired, and one of the officers, they disagreed that he should be terminated. I guess he didn't have the same level of culpability the other officers did. So only 7 are going to get fired, and then of course one's looking at going to the joint. So when we talk about the cloak of believability and that it no longer is there, this is why, man.
Right. Even that case is an anomaly. It's not the norm. And I can think back to, when I was a police explorer, LAPD police explorer in the late 70s, or the mid 70s, I should say. I remember there was an LAPD major narcotics team. They all went down for stealing money, and there were two or three sheriff's narcotics units that went down in the early 80s.
That was majors too.
Late 70s.
Yeah, Sobel and those cats, yeah.
Yeah, and they all started by, they would take down a drug house and there'd be a bunch of cash, and then it started with, hey, let's take this to buy this for the unit.
Equipment for the unit, surveillance equipment that the department wouldn't buy, sure.
Wouldn't buy.
This was before asset forfeiture funds.
Right.
Sure.
So, and then it got houses and boats. And
right, let's buy this Rolex, and let's get this jet ski, and
with
this house on the lake.
So, and the way you do that, the way you supervise that, anytime you have cop issues where you can look for weak supervision. And so if you have, and as a police supervisor, I'm sure you know this, but you can't be the buddy. You can't be the hey man, I remember you were my FTO, I was your FTO, whatever. It was like, okay, you're the sergeant now. Now you're looking at things from a liability perspective.
Sure.
And department
that's your
policy.
Job.
That's your job.
Sure.
And so when you see things, your job is to say, hey man, look here. What you did out there, that's bullshit.
Right.
Uncool. Do that again. We're going to go official, and then it's just going to build from there. So you decide how you want it to be as you work on my shift or on my team or whatever the case is. But those are anomalies. When I was in the military, I was a military policeman, and There was the 9th Infantry Division MPs, and then there was the 296th MP Company. I was with the 296. Well, the 9th MPs, they were field MPs. Back in those days, they had garrison and field guys.
What did they do?
The guys out in the field were standing out in the middle of nowhere directing tanks.
Oh, no shit.
And then other stuff out, but they did it out in the dirt, right?
I guess somebody had to do it.
Out in the bush. But there was an overnight shift, and we would finish the day and PMs, and then the 9th MP Company would come on at 11 o'clock, and they would do the overnight shift. Well, they had broken into the logistics building on base and started to steal equipment.
Who did?
The MPs.
Really?
They had an alarm call. They go there, and they couldn't find a suspect, but they found a whole bunch of cool shit.
Oh, yeah, that's happened several times. I got a couple stories on that.
Hollywood,
sure.
Remember?
Yeah, Hollywood, right next to Fairfax High School. I remember that.
So these things happen, but they don't happen every day. They don't happen every year. They don't happen every month. These are outliers. These are not. These are anomalies. It's not the norm, and so you can't say, well, law enforcement did it to themselves with these guys. Those guys, they make themselves look bad. They do what they do.
They make everybody look bad.
And they always go down.
But they make everybody look bad.
That's right. But it doesn't affect what I do or how I do it, how I did it. It doesn't,
No. It doesn't affect how you do your job. But when they do raggedy shit, it makes us all look raggedy. Yeah, so it makes the perception. It changes how people perceive us.
But if you're that simple, if your brain is that simple, you see one thing and you go, oh yeah, they're all.
Well, hold on now. But see, okay, now I'm not Catholic, so I'm going to just state as a non-Catholic perspective. After all that shit broke about the Catholic priests, although those were outliers, and that's not the vast majority of them, I still do not look at Catholic priests the way that I once did, as these bastions of purity and chastity, okay? Now, that's just from the outside looking in. That's how I felt about it. Okay, maybe people inside the church knew that was going on all along, but as somebody from the outside, man, I knew about Catholic priests from watching fucking Flying Nun, right? That was my exposure to the Catholic Church. I have a sister who's Catholic, but I never went to church with her. You know what I mean? I didn't. So I know that I no longer look at Catholic priests the way I once did, based on the actions of a small percentage, but it's high profile and it's high stake shit. Just like lying about a murder is, Mm-hmm. So people don't look at us and talk about the cloak of believability. Who had more than a priest, right? Who had more believability than a priest, man? Who would you think would not ever engage in anything? That guy, Father O'Leary, puts that collar on, man, and that's a cloak of believability for your ass. That's for real.
Why got to be O'Leary?
Well, Father,
why got to be Irish Catholic?
Like
from Boston.
Like Boyle.
From Boston.
From Boston, yeah, right. Well, I was thinking about Bing Crosby in Boys Town, right?
Oh,
okay.
Collar, right? All right.
Right, the hoodlum priest.
All right. Well, I was raised Catholic, and I'm a non-practicing falling Catholic at this point. Probably is how I would be viewed.
You may never get up at this point.
I don't know. I've been watching Ray Donovan on Showtime.
Which I hear is a good show.
It is a good show, because I just stopped watching TV. I can't take any more about Hillary. If that's what America wants, God bless them. I'm done. And
so you've accepted that this is what's going to happen in November?
No, I'm not sure that it is going to happen. But if it does, America deserves her.
Okay.
If that's what you want to choose, you deserve whatever the hell is coming. You deserve it. All I'm saying is, I'm preparing for whatever's coming, because it's not going to be pretty. This new America is not going to be a great place to live and try to raise kids and try to have a business and all those things.
It depends what your business is.
Yeah. Well, I guess if you're selling drugs or weed, or if you're a criminal, you'll
or if you're protecting people against all that, right? Or detecting those things.
Well, there's a movement to disarm police departments, to defund them.
Yeah, that's the craziest shit I ever heard of.
There's a push by the Obama administration's Department of Justice to consent decree more and more police departments across the country.
Well, there's nothing wrong with that. That's just
claiming quote racism.
There's nothing wrong with that, though. More accountability for police officers is not a bad thing. Maybe we can get that cloak of believability back after a while.
Not by bringing the feds in. And this idea that a police department has to look like the dang community that it serves is just ridiculous.
Well, not look like, but
no,
have
they
some
say it has to look
understanding.
like. They say it has to. No,
well, I don't say it has to.
Well, the progressives do. They say it has to, for God's sakes.
Well,
the fire department, LA City Fire Department, had to revamp their whole testing and hiring process.
I will say that your police department, your fire department, any job should reflect the candidate pool, whatever that is. That necessarily have to reflect the city, but it should reflect the candidate pool. And if 40% of your applicants are black, but you're only hiring 8%, only 8% of your officers are black, that's a fucking problem. There's an issue there.
I don't know.
There's a disparity.
It's all numbers, for God's sakes. If you decide one day, if you're a person of color and you see the bus going down the street and you go, hey, join LAPD, $75,000 a year, high school diploma, GED. Hey, I have a GED.
Right.
I'm working at, Just Tires for $14 an hour. I'm going to go do that.
Right.
But if you're a weed smoker and you have criminal history and, you have child support, but you're not paying it, and
sure.
Yeah, you had a ticket, but I kind of went to war. I forgot. I never received it. I never received it.
Never got that?
Yeah. I mean, please.
Yeah.
Law enforcement, it's a lifestyle, and it starts very young. Because I remember when I got into high school, a police officer came to my high school and talked about the Explorer program, and he was there in his uniform, and he talked about all the cool things you could do, and I said, that's what I want to do.
Sure.
I want to do that.
I've known I wanted to be a cop since I was 10 years old, probably.
And my dad, my dad was a career soldier, so my dad was 82nd Airborne Ranger with a Ranger flash.
Lead the way.
So, my dad was a bad mofo, firearms instructor, hand-to-hand combat instructor, and, just all-around bad mother.
All American.
However, so I was raised with that kind of discipline and go all the way, Rangers lead the way, blah, blah,
sure.
blah. So when I became a police explorer, that is like, I got it, once I went to the academy and at West Valley Division, they were damn nuts out there, all these crazy white people. And so you had to go to Hell Weekend first.
Right.
This is like Hell Week for the city.
Sure.
You had to do Hell Weekend first, and then once you went through Hell Weekend, if you didn't quit, then you were
cool. Sure.
And then you went to the academy. You did your 17 weeks there, and then you got to work. And as explorers, man, we used to do some cool shit.
Oh yeah. Sure.
I mean, we did some cool stuff, and
sure.
During Christmas, we'd be up on the roof with binoculars and a rover, and looking for guys breaking into cars, and we'd call the unit. And today, it's want to bring as many kids of color in and take them on trips and give them chips and dips.
But that's not the Explorer program, though. That's just community.
But it's LAPD.
But you were going somewhere with that.
Well, the point is that times have changed. Law enforcement, it was a way of life. You wanted to do that, and so because that's what you wanted to do,
not just a job.
You left stuff out. Like when other kids, hey man, let's smoke some weed. No, I'm cool. I'm not gonna.
Sure.
Hey man, let's go. Yeah, no, I don't think.
Sure.
And then I just gravitated to all my friends were just explorers.
Sure.
So when I went to high school, I didn't really have a whole bunch of friends at school. All my friends were police explorers who were my age.
Now, let me tell you something. A guy said, I heard him give this advice. He was the same guy that made the comment about blacks are either cops or criminals. He was also had been an Explorer advisor. And I remember hearing him give a young person this advice who wanted to be a cop. He said, if you want to be a police officer, you have to start conducting yourself right now like you're a police officer.
Right.
So that means don't be in places you shouldn't be in. Don't do shit you shouldn't do.
Right.
Conduct yourself because you're going to have your background looked at to see if you're a good candidate for this job. So that's absolutely.
And so you have to go to class. You have to do your work. You have to pass your classes. You have to graduate for God's sake.
Right. There's things that you do. There's shit you don't leave out, and there are things you definitely leave out.
Right. And there's one last thing I wanted to say about that.
Boy, you have a lot of senior moments tonight.
It's been a rough week. I've been busier.
No, I know.
I've been busier this week than most of the month.
Well, hey, you know what? Sometimes that's a good thing, but you don't want to get too tired, right? So, okay, so these officers in Chicago, the superintendent looked at it, and again, they were trying to roll up more of them. And Mayor Rahm Emanuel, of course. He ended up being criticized about how city officials handled the shooting investigation.
Well, I got a text that says that's just a code of silence. That's nothing new. So she's not surprised.
No. Hold on.
That 7 officers were involved in the cover-up.
Okay, see, but that's bullshit because a code of silence is one thing. Code of silence is I didn't see nothing, or I don't say nothing. You just don't say nothing. That's the code of silence.
Like Hillary Clinton.
Actively lying and writing in a report some shit that's not the truth. That's not code of silence. That's cover up. And there's a difference. Code of silence means just that. I ain't see nothing.
I'm Hillary Clinton. I know nothing.
I'm silent. I don't know anything about that.
I don't know anything about that. What email server?
So
I don't even know what a server is.
Let me guess who that text was from, by the way.
I thought it was a Mexican with food on it. I thought that was a server.
That kind of a server?
Yeah.
Wow. Serving breakfast, desayuno.
Yeah, with Tabasco.
Con Tabasco or Cholula.
Sure.
So that's a difference. But code of silence is one thing. Code of silence is you just don't say nothing. Kind of stop snitching, but the police version, right? But when you actually go in and cover up and you actually lie and you falsify documents and you do shit like that to cover up a murder, that goes beyond code of silence. Nobody's ever gone to prison for code of silence.
You were going to guess who that was, by the way.
Baby sis Trish, was that right?
No, it was not.
Really?
It was a baby sis. But
you said she, so I assumed.
Yeah, it was a she.
Okay.
And she is my sister.
But see, I never met the other two.
But it's not your bestie.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Not your bestie.
It's one of the other two.
Yeah. I believe that's how my mom talks about him.
So that's unfortunate, but the message has to be sent that when somebody does some shit, you cannot cover up something that appears to be that heinous. Now, of course, this officer has not been even tried yet, let alone found guilty. But this is back to what we were talking about earlier, about these guys always do themselves. Mm-hmm. That officer, I had his name. Is it Hayes? The officer who Van Dyke, Jason Van Dyke. Jason Van Dyke had 17 complaints against him before he finally killed this kid. That's a problem officer, man. We had that problem officer list, the Christopher Commission in L.A.
Right.
I knew some guys on that list, by the way. But that list, 17 complaints would land your ass on that list. Mm-hmm. Okay? So, but this dude has 17 complaints, and he's still out there doing his thing. And, now somebody's dead because he's still on the street.
Right.
That's not cool. That's why we can't wait for those guys to do themselves. Somebody needs to speak up. Along that line, somebody probably saw something. Maybe one of those 7 that lied may have seen some things that could have got this dude off the street before, and now none of them would be in trouble. Mm-hmm. That guy, listen, get that guy fired before he goes to prison for the rest of his life. You know what I mean? Daryl Gates even said that during the Rodney King caper. He said, listen, I don't understand how my officers would stand around and watch their coworkers get in that kind of trouble without going to stop them. Okay? Because that's what's happening, man. You can't if you care about these guys, if you care about the fucker, get him fired.
If there's a sergeant standing there, you're golden.
Well, that's what he meant, him and the other people too, because they stood there and let those guys get in trouble.
If you're the officers who get there after, and the guys that are dealing with the suspect are dealing with him, you're not going to rush out of the crowd. Hey, whoa, super cops here, stop!
Right, you're right.
Let's just shut this down.
That's true,
Sergeant Coon. But step back, Sergeant. I'm taking
back
over.
on it. Hindsight being 2020, I guarantee you, every officer that responded to that wish they had stepped in and stopped it. Could have kept guys out of prison. Could have kept the city from fucking burning down. There's a whole bunch of stuff they could have done. They could have stopped that.
I would bet money they said, hey, it wasn't me.
Well, these 7 Chicago officers, you mean?
No, the guys at Rodney King, the guys who stood back and were there. Up
to that point. I'm talking about, so back to Jason Van Dyke specifically. The guy's got 17 complaints. Think about all the people who didn't complain. Yeah, right? There's shit that was going on. They could have saved this guy from going to the pen for the rest of his life and let him go be a goddamn bus driver or a truck driver or go teach school, for God's sake, or something other than be in a position where you can get yourself in that kind of trouble. Because most jobs, you can't get yourself in this kind of trouble.
Right, because most jobs aren't union protected.
Well, it's not union protected.
Oh, yeah, it is. Yeah, it is. I was a union vice president for our department, for God's sakes.
But that's you're saying that's why he was allowed to survive after 17 incidents. I got you. Sure.
That's right. As a union rep, I found myself defending guys, and I was doing that. That's why I made a great defense investigator. I'll look for technicalities.
Right. Hey, well, you didn't do this technically, so
yeah, you didn't do it. You didn't do it properly. So because you didn't do it properly, this complaint this discipline you're trying to issue is not going to stand, if
Right.
we go to a hearing.
Sure.
And so I'm recommending we just do this, and if he'll accept
And
that.
he'll accept that, and it's
we'll
done.
We'll just
instead of everybody having egg on their face.
That's right.
Yeah, I agree with that.
And that's
well, that can be part of the problem. Yeah, but sometimes, especially in a maybe a medium-sized department, especially, a lot of times it's not small enough that you rode in the car with the guy that you're representing, but not so big that that you don't care about him at all, kind of a thing.
Right.
So maybe those are the scenarios in which the union will say we better cut our losses and let this guy get rolled up.
As a cop who's been on teams and run teams and been part of a morning watch and PM watch and or whatever, if you see a guy going too far, but not killing people, but just like, wow, I wouldn't have did it that way. If you
talk to him.
Yeah, back in we just said, you know what, hey, y'all got this? I'm out.
Well, then you get out, but then you leave it. But again, that guy develops those habits. He keeps doing the shit, and he ends up going to the pen. And 7 guys lose their jobs now. So that one fucker could have lost his job. Instead of these 7 guys losing their jobs, somebody's dead, and he's going to the pen.
Look, if I see somebody kill somebody, guess what? I'm telling.
No, we're going to tell.
That's right.
All right. Very good. Well, on
run
that
and tell
note,
that.
On that, run and tell that. We're going to tell. But on that note, we're going to start. We're going to wrap it up now. And listen. We're at that time. Isn't that amazing? Man. Wow, 90 minutes goes by fast.
Yeah, it does.
So listen, folks. Well, we're going to be back. It'll be September, I think, when we come back, right?
Yes.
Yeah. We'll be back next month, next Thursday, here on the Ride Along Radio Show. So, hey, if you want to keep up with us on social media, you can send us a tweet at Ride Along Radio. You can follow us on Instagram at Ride Along Radio Show. We're also on Facebook at Ride Along Radio Show. Or you can send us an email at ridealongradioshow@gmail.com. However, by far the most popular social media platform for us is YouTube. So after you watch this video, you can go ahead and leave your comments, and
if
we will address them.
If you wish to opine
or chime in. So you have some social media also.
Name a town. Yeah, if you catch me on Twitter, if you hate what I have to say, and you want to take issue with me on Twitter, I'm at 1035 Report.
All right.
And I'm on Facebook. It's open to the public for now. But I've had a few,
hateful tweets,
liberal trolls. You know what I mean? And when you have no facts, you argue, you start to attack the messenger personally. So,
all right. Well, hey, folks, we'll catch you next week. And don't attack the messenger personally. I'm George Holt.
I'm Bill Contreras.
It's been Ride Along Radio.
I'm a victim.